Lots of big breaking news today. We have the Department of Homeland Security is preparing for massive attacks on our food supply chain. We also have thousands of people stranded from flooding, and we have dairy farmers dumping out millions of gallons, tens of thousands of gallons each farmer, millions of gallons cumulatively of dairy is being dumped out and wasted as we are facing shortages, as we're facing food inflation, record high food prices. The government is stepping in and telling farmers to dump out their food. So let's get into what's going on with the DHS. They are preparing for attacks on our food supply chain and on our country's infrastructure, our electric grid. They're getting ready for a massive attack on that. So you can see here's the article. It says U.S. National Cyber Strategy to Stress Biden Push on Regulation. This is also a takeover. This is going to allow DHS to take over the food supply chain and the grid and everything else and regulate it and have control over it as well. So this is a double whammy here in this plan. They are preparing for a massive cyber attack that is definitely coming, or some kind of attack, and they also get to take over these key networks, these key distribution points throughout the country and have control over them. And this is already happening. All right, we'll get to the details of this DHS plan, but I just want to emphasize that our grid, our infrastructure is already under attack. We saw LAX, one of the biggest airports in the entire country, lost power for hours yesterday. All of their terminals were shut down. Baggage screening was halted. And this is a major national security threat, because what happens if somebody was able to slip through when this power was out for hours? They have all these cameras, they have all this security, they have TSA screening. None of this could happen when this power outage occurred, and we could see things slip through the crack during this massive power outage that happened yesterday at LAX, all right, one of the biggest airports in the world, and people were not able to book their flights. They were just stranded for hours until they were able to get the power back on, and they are still investigating what caused it. They're not even saying this was just a overloaded system, anything like that. They're investigating, trying to figure out why would all of LAX power go out at once, and that's why the DHS is getting ready. We'll get into the details of this report in just a second, and we'll also get into these dairy farmers as well. Also, guys, really quick, all right, I started a brand new channel. I'm posting brand new content on there. The video I just posted on there is called I Survived with no food, no water, no shelter through an Arctic blast. All right, I'll put up a little thumbnail here, and I have a link down below in the pinned comment. So make sure you go check that out. All right, I'll have it pinned down below, pinned comment to my new channel, and a whole new video surviving through an Arctic blast. No food, no water, no shelter. Go check that out after this video. All right, it's gonna be crazy. Go check it out, guys. But you can see here too the attack. This, I made a whole video on this. It barely got any views. I feel like it got throttled or something. It says detectives arrest man who set a vehicle on fire at a substation outside of Las Vegas. And this was a massive substation, a solar substation. This guy rammed his car through the gates. He rammed it into the equipment, and he lit his car on fire and damaged the equipment. And they said it could take months to years to actually repair this substation. So this is huge that this is happening. The frequency is increasing, and the DHS is now releasing a plan to handle this, the DHS and White House. You can see here, this was barely reported either. I saw Southern Prepper reporting on it. Shout out to Southern Prepper 1. But here's a video here. It says homemade explosives found at Washington County gas transmission facility. And you can see here, it says the gas transmission facility on Reeds Mill Road and Fallow Township, and says this was in Pennsylvania, I believe, and it says a homemade explosive found wedged behind the door. It says state police and FBI safely removed the device, and an investigation is ongoing. So homemade explosives were left at a gas facility, gas transmission facility as well. We are seeing these things increase every single day. Also, a very suspicious fire at a substation in Cincinnati, Ohio lit up the skies. This was all over social media. People were saying it looked like a nuke went off. The skies were just flashing all over the city. You could see this for miles away. A massive fire and lots of smoke. And just another event where we are suspicious of what's going on with our grid. Another one was shut down, another local gas plant. All right, so we had this gas facility here have a homemade explosive set at it, and then this gas plant in Texas, that one was in Pennsylvania, had an explosion at it, and now the facility is offline as well. All right, so what is happening to our grid? What is happening to our infrastructure? And that is what the DHS wants to find out. So let's get into this report by the DHS. It says the DHS issues the first ever pipeline security regulations after the Colonial hack that happened in 2021 when the Colonial pipeline was hacked. And there was gas shortages all over the southeast, all over Florida. I remember I was down in Florida at that time. And rural Florida, you were wondering, hey, if I drive an hour here, a couple hours there, am I going to be able to get gas, all right? And my local town, the local gas station, did not have gas for weeks. It says the strategy prepared by the White House official of the National Cyber Director is in the final stages of the approval, involving more than 20 departments and agencies, and expected to be signed off by the president in the coming weeks. He said the officials who spoke on the condition, because the document's not yet public, right? It says, however, the analysis also found there are 5 critical sectors of the U.S. economy where regulators do not have the power to enact cyber regulations at the national level. So this is what they're actually worried about. And it's also a power grab, too, because now they can implement regulations to take over these sectors. And one of them is the food sector. It says these include food and agricultural, government facilities such as voting infrastructure and schools, and, quote, critical manufacturing, including vaccine makers, drug and mask makers, the official said. That's where Congress would have to step in to pass legislation giving the relevant federal agency the power. So they're worried about cyber attacks and physical attacks against our food and agriculture. The FBI actually issued a warning about a year ago now, it was early last year, how cyber attacks could hit agricultural facilities at processing moments, right when they're processing all the meat, all their chickens, whatever. They can get hit right then and shut down their facilities and make thousands of pounds of meat or whatever spoil, all right, ruin their harvest if they are hit at critical times with cyber attacks. So they're worried about voting infrastructure too, in schools apparently, critical manufacturing as well. All right, we saw this video didn't get much traction either, but one of the largest manufacturers in the entire world makes parts and components for almost every other manufacturer and producer in the world, makes tiny, aluminum die-cast, steel die-cast components. One of the top ones in the world was hit with a cyber attack, and multiple of their production facilities were shut down as well just last week. So this is already happening, and the DHS is worried, and they are trying to get prepared for the next big one. All right, and you can see here they are running test and analysis to see what would happen if cyber attacks did disrupt the grid or disrupt the supply chain. It says the analysis examined companies in each sector for the impact on American lives in the event of a disruption, as the closure of a large power generation company affects many more Americans than a small one. For example, only 97% of the largest pipeline companies, those serving 50,000 or more customers or transporting hazardous material, fell under last year's regulation. So they're saying that there's a lot of things that are vulnerable that have no cybersecurity protection or physical protection, and they don't even fall under the DHS jurisdiction. So they're trying to up their power, up their regulation here, but they're also using a real concern and a real threat as well. That is, our grid is under attack, and there are people trying to target it. All right, let's get into what is happening to this dairy farmer, and actually thousands of dairy farmers in Canada right now, because this goes hand in hand. DHS is preparing for attacks on our food and agriculture right there. But the government itself is the one shutting down agricultural production a lot of the times. All right, this is happening in Canada and the U.S. This happens as well too. There are dairy conglomerates and dairy cartels in the U.S. as well. So Canadian dairy farmers expose government scheme to hike prices, destroy millions of gallons of milk. All right, and you can see here this dairy farmer has come out. You can see he's standing in his facility. And he's saying that him alone, he's dumped over 30,000 liters of milk, totally wasted, because the government wants to regulate the price of milk and dairy to around $7 per liter in Canada. And the way they do that is by, you can't flood the market. You can't just have a bumper crop, a bumper harvest, a good year. Your cows are producing a lot. You can't have that. Because you might bring down the price of milk for the other farmers. So it's very controlled, almost like communistic price controls here of the price of milk and the price of basic commodities. And Canada is very protectionist over their dairy, over their milk. They are constantly battling with the U.S., with the Northeast specifically, over their dairy regulations, their dairy tariffs, all these different things. It's very political, dairy farming. And you can see here that he's even saying that it's time to go public. I want the people to see the pain that us growers have 365 days. And as a little boy, he grew up on a dairy farm and came from Europe to work. All right. So he's dealing with this constantly. This guy's just, look at the pain in his face, just dumping out milk. And he was even drinking it. He was like, see, this is good milk. You can drink this. And I'm just dumping it out right now because the government says I can't put this on the market. I can't sell this. This is just engineered food shortages. We've already saw this egg facility go up in flames too. All right, 100,000 chickens gone from this egg facility. We are seeing constant hits on the food supply. And China just came out actually, and they're engineering genetically engineered cows to produce more than double the milk that regular cows produce. All right, so this is the future of farming as well, is genetically altered. So corporations and companies can patent them. Now the cow is patented. Now it's controlled. Now you're competing with this cow that produces twice as much milk, and you have to buy one or you can't compete. And the only way to buy one is to buy this patented cow from this specific company. This is what's happened with our vegetable production in the United States as well. All right, and I understand there are some benefits to GMOs. I'm not going to lie, there are some benefits. It is a benefit to produce double the milk, but long term, it takes the power away from farmers, and it perverts and alters our food supply, honestly, manipulates our food supply, and it makes it so we can't control it anymore, right? So dairy farmers are struggling, and this guy, egg farmers are showing the truth too. They're saying, hey, we're not getting any benefit from this. We're getting less eggs, and we don't know why the prices are so high. Like egg farmers are getting screwed over in this too. Same thing with dairy farmers. This is an attack on our food supply and our food production in the Western world. All right, all the world is under attack too, but especially the Western world because it's extremely productive. So get your chickens now. All right, I've been seeing stuff, all these articles saying inflation chickens are the new thing. There was everyone was getting puppies the past few years, but now everyone's getting chickens for inflation. It's true. You should have bought those chickens a year ago when I told you. You would have nice chickens laying eggs. You'd be good to go. But even that, chicken feed goes up. Price of feed goes up. Everything goes up. It's one of these things that's hard to combat the inflation. It's everywhere. All right. Let's get into this next story here out of New Zealand. Thousands of people are stranded and trapped from massive flooding that is happening in New Zealand right now. All right. And these are dramatic photos here. And it's kind of reminiscent of what was happening in California just a few weeks ago. So let's get into these pictures. You can see here very dramatic pictures. Thousands of people are being rescued from their own homes because they're being flooded out of their own homes. Look at that. Some of the water is up to the roof line of some of these houses. And this is a massive military vehicle that's driving through this water, getting people out. All right, so thousands of people are stranded. Very dramatic footage coming out of New Zealand. It's not getting a lot of coverage, but it's one of these things that this weather stuff, it can happen anywhere, guys. We saw what happened in Texas. It's snowing and icing in Texas. This weather manipulation, this weather intensity is going to get a lot more. We know that geoengineering is happening. I saw a picture of the president the other day, and there was those line clouds right over his head. They were spraying right over his head. So it happens everywhere, guys. It's all over the place. You can't avoid it. Look at this flooding here. You can see main streets are just completely flooded and washed out in New Zealand. And it's devastating, all right? And we're not hearing about this. You can see a train, the railway has been completely washed away here, and it causes a train to fall off the tracks. It actually crashed because, I don't know, they probably couldn't see it, and then the tracks just kind of dip off into the water there, and it just tumbled over, carrying a bunch of lumber. And this actually happened in the UK as well. A couple weeks ago, they had massive flooding and rain and lots of landslides, and there was a train track that was washed out as well, causing damage to trains, and their railways were shut down. One of their main rail lines were shut down in the UK. All right, so this can happen anywhere. This is also happening in California right now. A passenger train, this is a cargo train, but a passenger train in California has also been washed out in Southern California, and they are doing repairs on that because there's been landslides on it. All right, these storms are devastating, and they can hit at any moment, and it's life-changing. Your house is ruined. Your stuff in there is ruined. It's all flooded, moldy, probably unlivable. All right, and you can see here, I thought this picture was very dramatic, very significant. It looks like there's somebody in this car. All right, the lights are on. You can see those lights in the water there in front of it, and the wipers look like they're going, and it looks like there's a shadow of a person in there, and you can very easily get trapped in this water. It doesn't even matter if you have a big truck or anything like that. This looks like a highway barrier, and it's just flooding over the barrier. All right, it's got to be at least 3 feet of flooding. And what you do not want to stay in this car. All right, you do not want to stay in this car. You need to roll down the windows, and you need to get out this car, and you need to get to the other side of this barrier and get away and get to safety. All right, that is your best bet. If you're in a car that's trapped or flooded, roll down the windows, let the water equalize, let the pressure equalize, and then you should be able to open your door or just climb out the window, whatever your best bet is. But do not stay in here. Too many risks. You could easily get overwhelmed by the water or swept away, car tumbled, flipped over. There's too many variables. You need to get out of that car. It's screwed, totaled. It's over, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out my other video. It's pinned down below. Surviving with no food, no water, no shelter during an Arctic blast. I really think you guys are going to like it. It's a brand new form of content I'm working on. I'm going to have a lot more videos like this in the future where I'm just doing stuff outside, crazy stuff outside. So go to that channel. It's down below in the comments, pinned down below. Go sub to that channel, hit that like, hit that sub, hit all that good stuff. Go hit it on that other channel too. Let me know what you guys think on that video. Comment on it. Comment down below too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a big old blessed day.